In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Here comes truth.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hope you're not having a case of the Mondays. Happy Monday to you. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk. Well, the death toll continues to rise, as we knew over the weekend it would. But what to do? That's the question in Egypt. Do we suspend aid? Well, according to Rand Paul, that's what we need to do. We need to suspend the foreign aid. Now, the foreign aid would now be going to the military. But John Roberts this weekend had the opportunity to ask Senator Paul that question, Egypt and suspending foreign aid, and why Rand Paul would want to do that. The senator from the great state of Kentucky explains. Roll it.
What happens with foreign aid is basically foreign aid to Egypt is more likely to buy a lavish chateau for a dictator or a general in Paris than it is to buy bread for people in Cairo. We are not winning the hearts and minds of those in Egypt. All they do is they see our aid as something that goes to the people that are the dictators and despots that have been taking away their rights for generations. They also see it stolen. Mubarak stole it by the billions, and he had fancy homes all around the world with our money. It has to end. We don't have it, and it's counterproductive, and it shows nothing but American weakness to continue it. Those who want to continue this aid, they say, oh, we're projecting American power. They're projecting exactly the opposite. They're projecting American weakness because it shows that we are so weak that we will not even adhere to our own conditions on this aid, and it's not modulating behavior because the Egyptians just keep doing the same thing, and when they roll tanks over protesters, that's not something I think most Americans would support.
Rand Paul is a very popular senator. I like Rand Paul and a number of things that he speaks to. I happen to disagree with him on this issue, and in order to have a response to that, we need a greater discussion because we're really left with two choices in Egypt. One is to support the military. The other is to support the Muslim Brotherhood. The military came in, and you can call it a coup, but it was the same way Mubarak went. It's just that President Obama removed Mubarak. You had 30 million plus protesting against the Muslim Brotherhood after they were victorious in an election. There are now questions about that, but we'll stick to what we know. We know that they wanted to implement and started to implement Sharia law. We know their general design on power and what they want to do and how to achieve it, which is by any means possible. And that's what political Islam does with the Islamists, outlined in the 1982 project they wrote about. Now, if we're given a choice to now suspend aid to the people that may be, quote, overreacting, but a fluid situation with the news there, because we saw that the terror camps that the Muslim Brotherhood were engaging and had, oh, interesting. What are we to do with them? And war is bloody. Absolutely. But in order to defeat the Muslim Brotherhood, which I think is imperative, and to destroy the Muslim Brotherhood, which I do also believe is the right thing to do, as well as the thing that will bring greater stability to what can be described as a democratic process in the future, while going a long way to take a big shot at Islamists in the region. Other countries agree. We talked about that with Aaron Free and the funding that they're willing to pony up to the military. So while I sit there and say, yeah, we've got problems, big time problems, $16 trillion in the hole, $1 trillion deficits for 4 years under President Obama, without a doubt, and only going down now to what? Yeah, it's 40% higher than Bush's highest deficit, looking at about 800 billion. And so I get it. I also know that the number one job of this government is to protect its people. And what we do understand as a stable partner to our number one ally, not only in the region, arguably I would say in the world, is Israel. And to make sure that we have that stability. And to do that, we have to choose a side. There may be some disagreement on this. You can comment, obviously. I'm going to be talking to David Gartenstein-Ross on the flip side of this hour. So 1 hour from now, I will state my case to David Gartenstein-Ross of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he's probably going to disagree with me. But we'll have a great discussion on it. We'll also be discussing this, the NSA program, and the problems with the reporting that we're now getting from the audit, which amounts to, proportionally, if we look at percentage-wise, about 1% error rate for the NSA program. Nonetheless, Rand Paul was asked about this program, and the senator had this to say about the reporting of the violations that were discovered in this audit. Roll it.
Well, see, they chose not to report the program, period. They said they weren't looking at any American data or any phone calls, and it turns out they're looking at billions of phone calls every day. So I think the whole program needs to be reviewed, but it can't be an internal audit. There's sort of a similarity between this scandal and all the other scandals. The president thinks the IRS can police themselves as well, and that they'll do an internal audit. He thought the State Department could do an internal audit also. But the thing is nobody ever was fired in the State Department. No one's been fired in the IRS. The Director of National Intelligence lied to the Senate, and I think greatly damaged the credibility of our American intelligence community, and nothing has happened. There are no repercussions other than he says, well, we had a PowerPoint presentation. We had some lawyers come together who work for the NSA. The only way to find justice is you have to hear both sides. So there really needs to be a discussion from people who are a little bit more skeptical of the NSA in an open court, I think, before the Supreme Court on this program.
We're going to move to cut number 6. Drop number 5, go to cut number 6. Peter King is skeptical of one Rand Paul and the statements that he has been making and has just made regarding the NSA program. Roll it.
John, I totally disagree with that, and I fully disagree with what Senator Rand Paul said. That was just a grab bag of misinformation, distortion coming from him. The fact is, John, look at this. Take Rand Paul's own numbers. He said there's billions of phone calls being collected. It's not really true, but assume he's being right for once. Billions of phone calls being collected. You juxtapose that with 2,800 violations, which were self-reported by the NSA, which should not violate anyone's rights. You're talking about 1,900 of them being foreigners, and when they came to the U.S. because of their foreign mobile phone, it wasn't immediately transferred over the way it was supposed to be. No Americans' rights were violated with that. The others were records that were kept for more than 5 years by accident, self-reported by the NSA. To me, a scandal is when a government agency is somehow using information to hurt people and go after them. Whatever mistakes were made were inadvertent, and if you have a 99% batting average, that's better than most media people do, most politicians do, and I have a tremendous respect for General Alexander and the NSA, and this whole tone of snooping and spying that we use, I think it's horrible. It's really a distortion and a smear and a slander of good patriotic Americans.
So a debate on that we'll have later on this week. Absolutely. We will have two sides debate, and we'll talk about the efficiency expectation of the program, whether it's a scandal or not. We will also talk to David Gartenstein-Ross about that. He is also a lawyer and deals with national security legislation, and he will be with us, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a little later. I don't think we share the same view on this either, so David probably and I are going to have a discussion/debate. Let me set up the show for you. Yeah, I jumped right in. Got 90 minutes. I'm going to make the most of them. I hope you're enjoying it. Coming up, President Obama's weekly address. He's accusing the Republican Party of gumming up the works of Obamacare. I'll tell you right now, the problem with Obamacare is the Republicans. But what about the deadlines that you failed to meet? What about selectively enforcing it? Okay, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. And at the bottom of the hour, Harley Farina comes out with a wonderful way to present social issues. AFR Talk.